Okay. Not wanting more. Contentment has the idea of being satisfied with what I have. How many of you are happy or satisfied with what you have in life? You all content? Pretty much so? Okay, there's a couple verses that I want to share with you from 1 Timothy chapter 6. Verse 6, it says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that." People who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. That's from the NIV translation. So here we see that the Bible is teaching that we are to be godly and we're to be content. We're to be satisfied with what God gives us in life. We're not to desire to be rich people. We're not to desire to have what He's given to someone else. I'm not saying that planning for your future is wrong. I don't think that's what this verse is saying. But what it's saying is that when God blesses us in life, whatever God blesses us with in life, we need to be content with that and not dissatisfied as we look around at what other people have or what He has blessed other people with. So supposing you discovered that your friend got a new soccer ball or a new bicycle. Are you still content with your old bike? Or do you go home and say, "Mom, I need a new bike"? Huh? What do you think? Or maybe you show up at church and you discover that your friend got a new pair of shoes or a new dress, and you have to wear hand-me-downs from your older sibling. Are you still content? Or does it make you dissatisfied? Man, I wish I had what they had. Why do I have to wear hand-me-downs from my sibling and they get new clothes? What about when you get old enough that some of your friends get a new cell phone? And mom and dad didn't get you a cell phone yet. What's going to happen then? Are we going to be content? We're going to be satisfied? Or are we going to say, "Mom, I need a phone"? Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of an experiment this evening around this idea of contentment. Now, used to be that I could do this children's meeting and give a quarter, but a quarter don't go far anymore, does it? In Joe Biden's economy, we have to double it. And so we're going to start with 50 cents, okay? Now please don't put this in your mouth. I don't want you to choke, okay? Nobody needs to choke. Just keep it in your hands. You're here too. Yep, open your hand. Just keep them in your hand. All right. Everybody has two, right? Everybody's got 50 cents. Now, I brought with me a whole bunch of coins. All right. Here's what we're going to do. You can say, you know what? Preacher gave me 50 cents. I'm going home with 50 cents. If that's the way you feel, you can just stay sitting. But if you want to say, hey, you know what? The preacher said in children's meeting, we're going to have the opportunity to get as much as I'm willing to get. And so I'm going to get more. You may do that. There's only a couple rules. No climbing over the banister, okay? We're going to use the steps, all right? No running, no pushing, all right? And you can only go up here and carry one coin at a time. And I got the coin. Now you got to come back, at least back even with the podium. Then I can go back. I can get another coin. And you can do that as often as you feel like you want to do that, okay? Here's the catch. I'm going to set the timer on my phone. You don't know how long it's going to be. Oh, when you get a coin, just keep it in your hand. But what I'm saying is go up, get one, come back at least to here before you go get, but just keep them in your hand. Okay, I'm going to set the timer on my phone. If you're on the steps or up there, when the timer goes off, you have to put all your coins back. Okay? I'm not a mean person, so I'll tell you that it's going to be more than 5 seconds. It's not going to be that you get out of your seat, get up here, and boom, you just lost your 50 cents, okay? It's going to be more than 5 seconds, okay? But I'm not going to tell you what it is. So, let me get my phone set. Everybody stand up. And you're now good to go. You can get one coin at a time. Go as often as you wish. Make sure you come back at least to here before you go back again. If you're up there when the timer goes off, you must put all your coins back. Whoa! Nobody got caught. Let me get rid of that. So, I got a question. Who has the most? Does anybody have $1? Okay, does anybody have over $1? $1.05. Anybody higher than that? Nobody higher than $1.05. Okay, does anybody not have anything more than 50 cents? You guys only have 50 cents. If you have 50 cents only, stand up here. If you only have 50 cents, come on up here. Make sure he gets his 50 cents. We don't want him to lose that. Now, what was our lesson tonight? Be content. I gave you 50 cents. Which group was content? This group. You know what? In a way, I'm glad you went and tried to get more, because that's what made the example interesting. And I'm glad nobody got caught. I didn't want you to have to put your coins back. But the lesson tonight was to be content. What you didn't know is the ones who were content with what I gave them were going to go home with more than any of you. Okay, we had one of you guys was at $1.05, right? Okay, so these guys get the 50 cents I gave them, plus they get $2 because they got the lesson right. All right, and so we need to learn to be content with what God gives us in life. All right, now, come back tomorrow night. We'll have another children's meeting for you. Let's pause for a word of prayer. Father God, we just say thank you for each one of these young lives here this evening, and I just pray your blessing upon them. I just pray as they grow up, and us as adults as well, that we would learn what being godly with contentment really means, that we would not seek after the riches and goods of this world, but seek to live lives that honor and glorify you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You may go back to your seats. Arthur, if we could have a verse of song.
Let's sing number 6 in the Song of Life and Grace. Number 6.
Max Lucado shares the story of a parakeet named Chippy. Chippy's owner decided to clean his cage with a vacuum cleaner. She was almost finished when the phone rang, so she turned around to answer it. Before she knew it, Chippy was gone. In a panic, she ripped open the vacuum bag. There was Chippy, covered in dirt and gasping for air. She carried him to the bathroom and rinsed him under the faucet. Then, realizing that Chippy was cold and wet, she reached for the hairdryer. Chippy never knew what hit him. A few days later, when asked how he was recovering, well, she replied, Chippy doesn't sing much anymore. He just sits and stares. Have you ever felt like that? 1 minute you're whistling through life, and the next you're caught up in a whirlwind of unexpected events, and you have no control over anything, and nothing you can possibly do has any effect. Life just sucks you up into its vortex, and just when you think you're recovering from one trouble, something else happens. Don't be like Chippy the parakeet. Don't let the song go out of your life. We're living in a troubling era of time. Excuse me. We find ourselves surrounded by uncertainty and unrest on every side. In our American culture, our American culture is reeling from social injustice, a sexual identity crisis, We've just come out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Add to that the additional struggles that people face in life, and very quickly, people can lose hope. Believer and non-believer alike are facing this battle to hold on to hope and purpose in life. Go with me to some of the words of Jesus as he was revealing that he was the promised Messiah, the one who would bring hope to a lost and dying world. Luke chapter 4, beginning at verse 14, it reads like this. And Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him through all the region round about. And he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as was his custom, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it is written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book, and he gave it again to the minister, and sat down. And the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, This day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears. This passage mentions that Jesus was reading from the book Isaiah. And so we want to just go there and see what verses follow after what Jesus read. Isaiah 61, verses 1 through 4, and you will notice as we read that Jesus stops there in verse 2. Jesus stopped reading at a comma, and he never finished verse 2. And many people believe that's because the rest of that sentence is yet to happen at a future date. Be that as it may, this is where Jesus was reading in Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called the trees of the righteous, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. And they shall build the old wastes, and they shall raise up former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. God sent his Son into the world when the Hebrew nation was struggling to find hope and purpose in life. Jesus said the people were like wandering sheep without a shepherd. Vulnerable, alone. There are a number of reasons that the people might have been struggling and losing hope. Just a few that come to mind is the Roman rule and oppression that the Jewish people were under probably caused some to lose hope. Well, we're never going to get out from under this oppressive rule and this heavy taxation of Rome, and so they were losing hope. The hypocrisy and dishonesty of the spiritual leaders amongst the Jews probably caused people to lose hope as well. Here God is calling us to be a holy and a righteous people, and our own leaders are dishonest and hypocrites. What hope is there? What future does our nation have? What future do our people have? For others, it might have been poverty or financial loss of some kind. Maybe disease, sickness, or sin amongst the people. Today, I think we find ourselves in many ways in the same shoes as the people during the days when Jesus walked on this earth. This evening, there are many who are struggling to find meaning and purpose in life. There are many whose hearts are breaking and hope seems to be slipping from their grasp. The reasons for that are quite varied. I believe there are individuals who are losing hope or hearts are breaking because they're broken by sin. They find themselves mired in sin and they have broken hearts and broken lives and have lost hope. I believe others have broken hearts and are losing hope because of mistakes that they've made in life. Still others, it is failing health that can be very discouraging. Still others, maybe it's pain or hurt that is inflicted upon us by someone else. For others, maybe it's tight finances or even financial failure that is getting us discouraged. Though the reasons for struggle may be varied, the solution is generally the same. What did Jesus say in verse 18? The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. Jesus came to give hope, to give peace, to give purpose in life. That's why Jesus came. He came to provide deliverance from sin for those who are held captive by their sin. He came to bring healing to those with a broken heart, those with a heavy heart. For those who find their lives have been ruined by sin. I don't know much about most of you. I don't know you. I don't know where you're at in life. Maybe your life is ruined by sin, or maybe it's your neighbor next door. They find themselves in a position where their life is ruined by sin. Sin has wrecked their life, or your life. It has wrecked relationships. It has wrecked family. It has stripped away all dignity. It has left you or them feeling worthless and alone. Take heart. Jesus says that spiritual condition is not uncommon. Jesus says, I have come to extend forgiveness to those who are willing to repent. Think for a moment what it means to sin. What does it mean to sin? It means to miss the mark. The target that we're aiming at, think of sin like an archer that is aiming at a target. When we sin, it's like missing the target. The target that we're aiming at is a pure, holy, God-honoring life. It's interesting how we as human beings sometimes we think about sin, and we think about sin on a scale or some type of degrees, like this sin is worse than that sin. And this sin over here is that's way out there, man. Way worse. That's not what the Bible says. Sin that is not under the blood of Jesus Christ, unrepented of, the eternal consequences of that sin are the same. Eternal damnation in hell for all eternity. I believe the Bible is clear enough that there are levels of punishment. Okay? But it's for all eternity. And so this sin and this sin and this sin all have the same eternal consequence. Separation from God and all good things for all eternity. Picture with me for a minute. You and your friend are hiking near a volcano when it erupts, and very quickly there's this lava flow that flows down both sides of you and it has you trapped. In order to escape, you're going to have to leap over that river of lava, and it's probably about 30 feet wide at this point. Now, to gain an advantage, you climb on a hill right beside that lava flow, and your friend, he goes first. He takes a running start, and he takes that flying leap, and he is grossly overweight, and he plunges to his death in the lava flow at about 14, 15 feet. He didn't even make it halfway across. You, on the other hand, you are physically fit. And you've kept yourself in extremely good condition. And so now you're confident that you're going to do much better. And you get your running start. And you leap out over that flow, and the heat is intense. And there's 10 feet and 20 feet and 25. And the lava is really close now. And you land in the lava 2 feet before the other side. Who missed the mark? You both did. You both plunged to your death in the 900-degree lava. Translate that to the spiritual. To sin is to miss the mark, no matter what sin it is. Jesus says he came to provide deliverance for sin. No matter what sin has caused you to do, Jesus came to provide deliverance for that sin. Go back with me to the time when the religious leaders dragged that woman before Jesus and accused her of being caught in the act of adultery. Now, the Hebrew law says that they're to stone the man and the woman, both. Where was the man? I don't know. Did they already stone him, or was this basically just a test for Jesus? I don't know where the man was. But anyway, this woman, according to the Hebrew law, is to be stoned. And so they say to Jesus, you know, we caught this woman in the very act. What do you say? And what did Jesus say to them? Jesus said, whichever one of you is without sin, you cast the first stone. They all slinked away because everyone had missed the mark. Let's pick up the story in John 8:10. John 8:10. Jesus said, when Jesus had lifted himself up and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Jesus said, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. To the man sick with palsy, Jesus said something very similar. Jesus came to offer mankind forgiveness of sin. If we will come to him in brokenness, in repentance, he is willing to extend to us forgiveness. It is important to note, Jesus did not excuse her sin. Jesus forgave her sin. There's a difference. He told her to go and sin no more. Go and endeavor to live life in victory. The Cups sing a song about this passage of Scripture that I'd like to read to you. And it says this way, Once a woman in the Bible was condemned by man to die. She was nothing more than an outcast. Her friends passed her by. With the stones they sought to kill her, but Jesus showed her love so true. He took the broken pieces of her life and made it new. He won't throw you away. He still uses broken things. Though you may feel so worthless, He'll love you just the same. To Jesus it doesn't doesn't matter what sin has caused you to do. He'll take the broken pieces of your life and make it new. My life was torn and shattered like glass upon the floor, tormented by the deeds I had done. I had nothing to live for. When all had forsaken me and I didn't know what to do, that's when he took the broken pieces of my life and made it new. He won't throw you away. He still uses broken things. Though you may feel so worthless, he'll love you just the same. To Jesus, it doesn't matter what sin has caused you to do. He'll take the broken pieces of your life and make it new. He'll take the broken pieces of your life and make it new. He'll make it new. No matter what we have done, Jesus says, come in forgiveness. Come in genuine repentance. And you can find forgiveness and salvation. Jesus is beckoning and calling us to come in brokenness, in repentance. That broken life that sin has wrecked, Jesus just desires for you to come and lay it at his feet, and he'll make something beautiful out of that. So some people are broken and hurting and losing hope because of the sin in their lives that has wrecked their life. Others are broken and hurting this evening excuse me, because of what someone else has done to them. There are those who are to be our protectors. There are those who are to be our providers in life. There are those in which we place trust, and then they betray us. Jesus addresses that as well in John 10, where he talks about he is the good shepherd. And we're going to jump in at verse 10. John 10:10 reads like this: the thief come not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy, and I am come that they might have life, and they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. Jesus here in this passage reminds us that it is Satan's desire to destroy us. However, Jesus says, come to me. I'm willing to give you life. I am willing to give my life for you. I am the good shepherd. I'm willing to give my life for yours. He proved that on Calvary's cross. Jesus not only wants to give us life, he wants to give it more abundantly. Hebrews 13:5 and 6. Jumping in at the middle of verse 5 there, it says, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee, so that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear, what man shall do unto me. These verses reveal God's promise to never leave us or forsake us. God says he will never turn his back on his children. Now, I will say this in life. This is a promise that sometimes you must accept by faith. Because there are times in life when it feels like God has forsaken us. When the trial gets hard enough, when the trial gets long enough, our emotions and our feelings can bring us to the place where we feel like, God, why have you forsaken me? This is a promise that is true, but we go through things in life and sometimes we have to accept this by faith. Some people are broken and hurting because of mistakes that they've made in life. Not necessarily sin, just made a decision in life and it just didn't work out. And the result of that is discouragement and losing hope and so on and so forth. Some people are struggling to hang on to hope because of health conditions. Once a healthy individual, and now battling health issues for an extended period of time, and maybe even facing physical death, can be a very challenging time. And so sometimes that struggle can cause us to lose hope. Still, for others, it's just the financial struggles. We make decisions in life and try and provide for our families, but sometimes finances get really tight and life gets hard. So there are a number of reasons that we struggle in life. Speaking about the financial one, it was amazing what we've learned over the COVID pandemic. You have two businesses located on the same street, side by side, two different industries. COVID hits, they're both on good financial footing. COVID hits, the one business is booming, and they become millionaires overnight. The business right next to them is maybe in the food service sector, and so they're not allowed to be open, and they end up in financial ruin. And so sometimes the financial struggle is out of the control of the individual. And in those situations, it's very easy to become discouraged and lose hope. This evening, I don't know you. I don't know what you're facing right now. I don't know what your life journey looks like. But this I know for certain. God is sovereign, and He knows exactly where you're walking today in life. He knows what you're going through, because He allowed it to come to pass. Sometimes we pray asking God to change our circumstances. God, this is too hard. God, remove this from my life. When God allowed it to come into our life because He wants those circumstances to change us. And so we need to be careful about that. It's not wrong to ask for relief, but we need to be careful, because sometimes those hard things in life God brings into our lives to change us or mold us in some way. What we do know is God cares. He cares about what we're going through, and He promises us that He will give us the grace to glorify Him as we walk through it. God asks us to come to Him for strength, for hope. Matthew 11:28 and 29, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest for your souls." 1 Peter 5:7, "Casting all your care upon Him, for He careth for you." Jesus knows the trials of life are too heavy for us to bear alone. God never intended for us to bear these heavy trials by ourselves. That's why He invites us to come. He's asking us, He's pleading with us to come before Him and surrender, that He might care for us. Know this, God will not waste the hard experiences that we go through in life, if we will bow down before Him and surrender. He will not waste those experiences. He will make beauty from ashes. He will take the broken pieces of our lives and make something of value from it. I can say that because God's Word promises us that. And I can say that because that has been my experience in life as well. My wife and I have walked through some very difficult circumstances in life. Some of them are too painful to talk about. But I'm going to share one from very early in our marriage. This was my wife's cup to bear. But my wife and I were married in March 26th of 1988. And our desire was to have children. And for several years we had no children, and did some testing, and listened to what the doctors had to say, and well, there was an operation, but success rate wasn't that great, and my wife's husband would probably never father a child. For me, that was okay. I could get beyond that, but that was, for my wife, that was a cup to bear. And I still remember the day I came home from work and she said, "Honey, I am now okay if we never have children." That's where God asks us in every difficult circumstance we go through in life. That's where God is asking us to come to. Yes, there's a struggle. We're human beings. We wrestle with these things. We fight these things. But God is asking us to come to the place where we say, "You know what? Have thine own way, Lord." 9 months after she said that to me, our first child was born, and in fairly rapid succession, we had 4 children. That is a time where we went through a challenge in life, and God, after the surrender, God answered the prayers in the way we would have liked to see them answered. But we've also walked through difficult experiences where we can look back still today and wish it was different. At the same time, while I can look back on some of our other experiences that are painful, at the same time that I wish they were different, I can also see where God took those things and made beauty out of ashes. So the reason why we're struggling to hang on to hope, and the reason why we're going through difficulty in life really is irrelevant. Be it sin or mistakes or health or faults of others or financial loss or death or whatever it may be, God is asking all of us to come to the same place, where we come to the place where we say, "You know what, God? Have thine own way. You know what's best." When the trial is long enough, when the trial is difficult enough, we're all human beings, and we all begin to weigh some things out in our minds and in our hearts. As we go through difficult times, if they're difficult enough, we begin to think and evaluate, well, does God really love me? Does God care? Does God even hear my prayers? I mean, I pray and nothing. God, why? God, this seems so unfair. God, I just feel like quitting. God, I'm so angry. I feel like I can't trust you. God, this doesn't make sense. And the list goes on. When we're in the midst of trial, sometimes it feels like all we can feel is pain and hurt. It's all ashes from our viewpoint. There's no beauty. Hopes and dreams have been crushed. Our hearts are broken. Our dignity is wounded. We feel forsaken. We feel lost. We feel alone. What did Jesus say on the cross? "My God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Jesus, the Son of the living God, the Creator of the world, in his darkest moment of trial, he asked that question, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Remember when you were in school, and I discovered that basically it's homeschoolers here tonight. But remember when you're in school, when it's time to take the test? What happens? Generally speaking, the teacher's silent. It's time for a test. You've had your life lessons. Now is a time of testing. And generally speaking, the teacher remains silent. And it's in those dark times in our lives, those times when we feel like quitting, we feel like throwing in the towel, it's in those circumstances that our faith is validated. Though we can't feel God's love, though we can't feel God's blessing, His healing touch seems absent from our lives, we still know what God's Word says. We know that God promised that He will never leave me nor forsake me. And because of that, again today, though I can't feel His love, though I can't sense His presence in this trial, I'm going to cling to His promises in faith. And today, again, I'm going to move forward in faith, believing that my God cares. God, I'm going to continue to believe that you are good, even though this hurts. I'm going to continue to believe that I'm going through this because you have a purpose. Either it's to refine me, either it's for my benefit, or the benefit of somebody else, or for your glory. God, empower me. Give me the strength to honor you through this difficulty in my life. No matter by what means God brings us to deep trials in life, God is asking that we come before Him in humility, in brokenness, in surrender. And when we come to the place where there's no fight left, there's no resistance left, only a feeble clinging to God, it's in that time where God begins to gather broken pieces. And He begins to start to mold something beautiful. As we go through those experiences in life where we just desperately cling to our faith, as we go through those times in life, something happens to that faith. It grows stronger because now it has been battle tested. It has been validated. Our self-confidence has been replaced by a confidence in God only. A confidence in His promise to give us the grace to endure, to glorify Him no matter what we're walking through. Trial has a way of helping us to really evaluate what's important in our lives. Many times as we go through trials, we can look back, sometimes it's many years later, but many times we can look back and see how we are a better person for having experienced it. Some of you know what it is like to be so low, so defeated, so tired of the battle, so broken that when you bow your head to pray, you don't even know how to pray anymore. My wife and I know about that. Allow me to share you this story of Colbert and Joyce Croft as we wrap up here this evening. They went through one of the worst storms any family could face. They were beaten down so far by the weights of this world that they felt they couldn't go on any farther. Everywhere that Colbert looked, out of every window, all he saw was the storms of life crashing in on him and his family. He felt like there was no way out, nothing else to do. That night, he and his wife fell on their knees in the living room. They tried to cry out to God. Colbert said his heart was so broken. He was so discouraged. He didn't know how to pray anymore. When he bowed his head, he couldn't pray. All he could do was weep. All he could say was, "Lord, help me. God, could you please make a way?" when everyone else says there is no way. At 1 o'clock in the morning, Joyce sat down at the piano and God came to visit them in the midst of their storm. Colbert picked up a paper and wrote these words. "I thought number one would surely be me. I thought I could be what I wanted to be. I thought I could build on life's sinking sand, but I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I can't even walk without you holding my hand. The mountain's too high, the valley's too wide. Down on my knees I learned to stand. I can't even walk without you holding my hand." I thought I had done a lot on my own. I thought I could make it all alone. I thought of myself as that woman who can, but I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I can't even walk without you holding my hand. The mountain's too high, the valley's too wide. Down on my knees I learned to stand. I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I think I'll make Jesus my one and my all. From now on, when I'm in trouble, only his name I'll call. And if I can't trust him, I'll be less of a man, because I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Notice the words that God gave Colbert and Joyce that night. Notice he shifted their focus off of themselves and their own abilities to total dependence on God. Every crutch that we have to lean on is stripped away, and we can't even walk without God holding our hands. And when we get to that moment in our lives where we accept the cup that God has asked us to drink from, God begins to gather the pieces and make beauty from ashes. If you're going through a difficult time tonight, I can't promise you that God's going to answer your prayer like he did that one for my wife and I. And I can't promise you that he's going to give you the words of a song. And I can't promise you that he's going to accomplish some amazing feat in your life. But as you bow at his feet in surrender, he will make something beautiful out of ashes. It's up to him to decide how he's going to deal with that. But God will never waste a trial that we go through if we come before him in total surrender. What I can promise you is if you hold fast to your faith, if you bow before God in brokenness, God will pick up the pieces and make something of value. If you're in the midst of a trial, I know we can't see it now, but the time will come when the trial will pass and we will begin to see the beauty from that trial. This evening, maybe you're at a place in your journey where you're not going through a difficult time right at the moment. If so, you have a responsibility to your fellow believers. Galatians chapter 6 says we're to bear one another's burdens. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. God brings these trials or allows these trials to come into our lives, but he never expects us to go through it alone. He asks us to come and surrender before him, and he expects our fellow man, our fellow believers, to help us bear these heavy burdens. If you're not going through a trial at the moment, your day will come. That's the way it works in life. We live in a fallen world. Your day will come. If life is pretty good for you at the moment, you have a responsibility to your fellow believers and the neighbors around you in your community. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. We all need each other, especially in hard times. For my wife and I, when I wanted to give up, it was her faith that saw us through, and vice versa. Times when she felt like it wasn't worth continuing on, I could see hope in the future. We need each other. God created us in such a way we need to know someone cares. Will you let someone know this week that you care about what they're walking through? I'll close with this story. Mammy Adams always went to a certain post office in her town because the workers there were friendly to her. One time, Mammy went in to buy some stamps. The lines were extra long that day because it was just before Christmas. Someone pointed out that there was no need to wait in line because there was a stamp machine in the lobby. I know, said Mammy, but the machine won't ask me about my arthritis. You see, people just need to know we care. God doesn't expect us to bear our burdens alone. He gives us a responsibility to care for each other. I don't know you. I don't know what you're going through or what you're not going through. You know each other. You know the people in the community and if you around you, and if you don't, you should get to know them. But this week, will you let someone know? Find a way. We all have different giftings. We all have different abilities, but find a way to let somebody know that you care about what they're going through. Let them know that you're willing to pray for them. You're willing to be there to care, to help however you can. You think about that. Let's stand for a prayer.